Hi, I'm Alexis, and this is my guide to the glory of the Dragonflight Hero Achievement, where as a reward you get the Shell Shack mount, one of the new snail mounts in the Dragonflight expansion. All the achievements have to be done on Mythic difficulty, ideally on Mythic 0 to make it easier for everyone. I recommend using the Instance Achievement Tracker add-on, which tells you if an achievement has been met or failed, making your achievement tracking a bit easier. The first dungeon in the list is Algethar Academy. The first achievement is See Me After Class, where you have to defeat Veximus without any players absorbing any of the arcane orbs. This is an easy one, and the achievement tracker will tell you if someone has accidentally absorbed an orb. So just quickly nuke down the boss, avoid all the orbs, and achievement done. The next achievement is Duck Duck Spruce. Before attacking the overgrown ancient, go off to the pond at the back of the area where each player has to pick up a well-fed duckling. You'll see the duckling sitting on your head and will slow you down by 65%. Nuke the boss down quickly with the ducks on your head, and that's it. Squad Goals is the last achievement in Algethar Academy, where you have to defeat Croth after activating both goals. Get both goals to 2 out of 3 each and get the boss down to 40%. After that, 2 players must go in each of the circles and throw the balls together. This is quite accurate and took us a few tries to throw them at the exact same time. You can either use a timer or use Discord or in voice chat to try to be more accurate. Nuke the boss and you got your third achievement for this dungeon. The last boss doesn't have an achievement, so on to the next. Next we have the Brackenhide Hollow Dungeon achievements, with the first one being Growlbossify. In this achievement you need to free Chief Softpaw and equip it with a spear and shield. Their locations are marked in this video. Using world markers beforehand makes it easier, and assign 2 persons to bring the spear and the shield simultaneously once the encounter is started. Don't take long to give the spear and shield to Softpaw, as he may run off in fear and you'll have to reset the boss and start over. Once he has both items, he will start battling the boss. You also have to make sure that Chief Softpaw survives, so it may require some healing if the fight takes long. We managed to nuke the boss down without any healing. In the All Bark All Bite achievement, each player has to be consumed at least once by Treemouth before defeating him. This is pretty easy. Just stand in the ability to make sure everyone gets consumed and be prepared for some extra heals if everyone gets consumed together. For the So You Can Kill This in Any Way That Matters achievement, you need to defeat Rathai after finding and planting 3 resilient mushrooms in front of the boss and destroying them with Decay Strike. These mushrooms can be found in the marked spots as shown in the video. The floor around the mushrooms is greenish and does continuous damage to you, but the damage can be avoided by standing right at the edge in front of the mushrooms. Once the boss fight starts, you can interact with the mushrooms, take them down and plant them in the same spot, ideally a marker is placed beforehand, and the tank must position the boss to cast Decay Strike on the mushrooms. Then just nuke the boss and you've got another achievement in the bag. The next dungeon is Halls of Infusion, with the first achievement being Toxicity Strike Team. This achievement is for the second boss of the dungeon. There's no achievement for the first boss. 1 player needs to dive into the water area with a large machine that supposedly controls the water intakes, and press the button near the bottom. This will spawn the toxic swamp mother. Just nuke her and you're done. The next achievement is Hungry Hungry Hornswog. This was pretty tricky to get. You need to defeat the Gulping Goliath after after forcing it to become hangry and devour 10 curious swoglets. So for this achievement, CCs are really important. We had 2 druids, so we rooted the frogs to stop them from hitting us because they stack a debuff which will eventually one-shot you. The swoglets will spawn after the boss casts Overpowering Croak. Stack them up and CC or stun them as close as you can. Then the tank has to bring the boss close to have him cast the gulp ability on the swoglets. The boss has to be really close or they won't be gulped. We had a few tries on this, and the achievement tracker notified us once we met this achievement instead of having to count all the frogs. Once the achievement is met, just nuke down the boss. The last achievement in Halls of Infusion is Go with the Flow, where you have to defeat the Primal Tsunami after slaying 3 flow control units. During the intermission phase of the boss fight, when the boss does the Castaway ability, he will send all the players to the end of the corridor, turn around and destroy the flow control device at the back. When all 3 are destroyed, go back to the boss and nuke him down as normal. Next we head over to Neltharis. The first achievement is Knowledge is Preserved, where you have to defeat Chargegath, Bone of Scales, while burning less than 15 books. This is just a DPS race. Quickly nuke the boss down before he burns 15 books and you've got the achievement. Moving the boss near the stairs will help to burn less books as the fire won't be able to reach them. The next achievement is Liquid Hot Magma. Before the boss encounter, each player has to pick up the vial on the table as you enter the room. And before pulling the boss, everyone must throw the potion on the boss, giving him 5 stacks of the Magma Tentacle buff. In our case, only 1 player picked up the vial and threw it at the boss 5 times, and we got the achievement just the same. The final achievement is Ready for Raiding 8, which is an achievement that most players already have if they did the Mythic Zeros in the beginning of the expansion. This is a personal achievement, meaning that others can get it even if someone fails. You need to avoid all the boss abilities and nuke the boss. In Ruby Life Pools, the first achievement is Are You My Broodmother? Ideally, you do this achievement separately, as it requires a player to pick up a nascent ruby egg in the beginning of the dungeon and keep it alive till the last boss. The player carrying the egg cannot die at any point of the whole dungeon. You can try it, but if you fail, no worries, just continue with the other achievements to get them out of the way and then do this one separately. You can find the egg in the beginning of the dungeon behind the pillars. Ideally, the person least likely to die carries it. In our case, the tank did the honors. The player carrying the egg cannot mount at any time, as this will cause the egg to drop and the achievement has to be restarted. The player carrying the egg has to be hit by various boss abilities. On the first boss, the player has to be hit by hail bombs, the little white swirlies on the ground. And if done correctly, the egg will then look like it has its own swirly around it. On the second boss, the egg carrier has to get hit by a fire swirly on the ground, when the ritual of blaze binding is being cast, which will make the egg fiery and change appearance. On the last boss, the egg carrier must be hit by the fire breath, and this will finish off the achievement. In our case, the tank dropped the egg after being hit by the fire breath after getting the boss down to low health, and the healer healed up the egg until the boss was finished off. The next achievement is Dragon Killing Points, where you have to defeat Meladrusa after defeating 40 of her whelps. There are 4 sets of dragon eggs in the corners of the room, and running over them will spawn the whelps. You have to nuke down 40 of them. Ideally, you spawn them group by group to avoid excessive damage, or you can wait for the boss to spawn its own whelps, but this may take a while to spawn all the 40 whelps needed. If your group can handle it, have everyone run over the eggs, spawn the whelps, nuke them, and when the achievement tracker marks that you've nuked 40, nuke down the boss. The last achievement for this dungeon is Does Steam Do Fire Damage?, where you have to defeat Blazehoof after heating up 4 life pools with the molten boulder. You have to drag the boss around the platform to each of the pools. Players should stack up at the pool to trigger the molten boulder to roll in that direction and steam up the pool. Kill the ads far away from the pool to avoid making everywhere too messy. Also, at times the boulder seemed to get stuck on the stairs, so make sure that you see the boulder go over the pool and you see the steam animation coming up from the pool to be sure that it counted. Do this for all 4 pools on the platform, then nuke the boss. The next dungeon is the Azure Vault. For the You Must Be Made of Hide achievement, you have to defeat Umbral Skull without triggering any polymorph traps or triggers throughout the dungeon. So avoid the whelps with the ring around them, which can trigger the shriek, and avoid the runes on the floor, which will trigger the polymorph effect. You'll get the achievement after defeating the final boss. The next achievement is I See What You Did There, where during the Talash Greywing fight, you have to use the Icy Devastator 12 times on an icy crystal to create a very icy crystal. One player will get the beam and must stand on the crystal for the achievement to count. The achievement tracker will track the number of times the crystal has been hit. Once it has been hit 12 times, nuke the boss down and the achievement is done. The final achievement for the Azure Vaults is the Cracked Crystal. Around the room there are 3 purple geodes. The tank has to drag the boss on each of these geodes. When the geodes are hit with the boss's Dragon Strike ability, 3 geode chunks will spawn and these need to be nuked down. A total of 9 geode chunks need to be nuked. Once that's done, nuke the boss down and you'll get the achievement. And if you didn't trigger any traps or polymorphs, you'll simultaneously get the You Must Be Made of Hide achievement. The next dungeon is Nokhud Offensive. The first boss doesn't have any achievements, so you can quickly nuke him down to get him out of the way and head over to Raging Tempest. The achievement for this boss is What Are the Chances?, where one player has to be hit with Lightning Strike 5 times simultaneously and then defeat the Storm Elemental ad. Ideally, the tank takes these hits, so once players get the rings around them, go over the tank overlapping the rings so that he can get hit with these rings. Then defeat the Storm Elemental and nuke the boss. The next achievement is Weapons of the Maruukai, where you have to defeat Tira and Maruk while holding a spear, a war axe, and a bow. These are found in the caves surrounding the bosses as marked in the video. Ideally, the DPS go and grab these 3 weapons. Picking up these weapons will give each player a debuff. The player holding the spear will get 20% more damage, the player with the axe has reduced movement speed, and the player with the bow has a reduction in incoming hailing. Nobody must die during the fight for the achievement to count. Once the weapons are in hand, just nuke the boss as normal. The achievement for the final boss of Nokhud Offensive is Nokhud Deed Goes Unnoticed, where Onara needs to be healed to full health. This is on the healer and anyone else that can off-heal. Start healing Onara when defeating the surrounding ads, and when she reaches full health she'll start to fly. You can then nuke the boss down and get the achievement. Another achievement in Nokhud Offensive is Ohuna Incubation, which can be done at any point during the dungeon. You can even enter the dungeon alone and do it by yourself. You need to collect 8 eggs and deliver them to Ohuna Keeper Tarek. The eggs are found in these locations as shown in the video, and X marks the spot where you can find Ohuna Keeper Tarek. There's no timer to finish this, but once you pick up an egg, you have 3 minutes to deliver it. There are more than 8 eggs on the map, so it should make it easier to collect them. The final achievements in this video are for Uldaman, Legacy of Tyr. The first achievement is It's a Trogg Eat Trogg World, where you have to defeat Bromak, while 10 or more Stone Vault Troggs are still alive. So basically, let the boss spawn at least 10 Troggs and nuke the boss. Avoid using any AoE damage to make sure that you don't kill any Troggs. The next achievement is No, You're Stunning. This was quite annoying to get, and we had quite a few tries on this boss. You need to stun the boss, and at the same time all players must stun themselves. During the fight, circles will spawn around the players, which will leave a mark on the floor. This is going to be used for the stuns. Group these in the middle of the room to make it easier for each player to take one. Also be sure to have your back facing the wall if you're a melee, or stand behind the circles if you're ranged, because the boss does a knockback which can throw you onto these circles, stunning you and breaking the circle. During the boss fight, the boss will have a buff called Titanic Empowerment, which makes it immune to crowd control effects and will make him not stunnable by the traps on the floor. When the buff is down, he will have a buff which prevents the next stun effect, which means that you need to run the boss through 2 circles, with the second circle stunning the boss, and everyone else has to take a circle each and stun themselves. Make sure that there are enough traps for everyone and coordinate who's taking which trap. This takes some timing and coordination until you get it right, and there's just a few seconds where you have to get stunned until the boss stun wears off. The final achievement for Uldaman is Like Sands Through the Hourglass, where you have to catch every Eternity Orb as it falls to the ground. This can be a bit tricky, as the boss does a knockback, which may make you miss an orb. In this fight, our healer switched to DPS, and we nuked the boss down as fast as possible to reduce the possibility of missing any orbs. And those are all the achievements for the Glory of the Dragonflight hero, and grats on your new snail mount. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe. I also stream on Twitch, so be sure to give me a follow to catch some live streams. Thank you for watching, and happy achievement hunting!